Hello everyone. So in this video what we're going to do is applying materials and textures, and we're going to do that using the material editor and looking at how we can directly apply materials and texture onto objects in our scene. So for the sake of clarity, I've started Autodesk 3D Studio Max with a blank file, and we're going to populate it with a few objects, because of course you can't apply textures or materials if you don't have something in your file. So you can't apply it to nothing, you have to apply it to something, simple as that. So we're going to put two things. We're going to put a box and we're going to put a sphere, and you're familiar with that. We just go to here to the adding function instead of the other function, which is to edit, modify. This is to add things, this is to modify, and so on and so forth. So remember the general settings, the general appearance of your application. Make sure you're comfortable with how it's set up, and you start. So you make a box here. So we're going to put a box here, like this, roughly speaking, it doesn't matter, and then up like this. And of course we can update all that. So we put 600 mil by 800 mil by 400 mil, just because I like to have things more or less the size. We can of course change the color, so we can do dark blue, and we can change the name, so we call it basic blue, basic box, sorry. So here we are, and we use explicit names, self-explanatory name, so we know what it's all about. So we have created our box, and then we're going to create a sphere next to it. So we make sure it's in the plan. Yes, it is, and it's roughly where it should be. Doesn't matter the location, doesn't matter all these things, because it's just for the sake of applying materials and textures. So we create a sphere, and again we create it here, and we go like this, and then we can specify that it's 550 mil and it's 32 segments, and that's all fine. And we're going to change this color to something a bit more contrast. Here we are. And this one as well, we're going to call it basic sphere 01. So as you see, you give it's a good habit to give a self-explanatory name to your objects. So if it's a sphere, you call it sphere something, and also to give it a number. So if you create several, you can just increment the number in the file name. It creates a well-organized 3D Studio Max file, and it makes it easy to manage later on when you start having a lot of objects, which you can see appear here, and thereafter, because we have correct names, it should be all fine. Okay, so that's the, so we can rename that to 01. So that's it. So we have a basic sphere and we have a basic box. Right, so to do the material editing and the texture editing, it's a very simple thing. You press the M key, M for mother, and what you have is a material editor coming up. And the material editor comes up with 6 spheres, and you can see they all look the same, and you have options here where you can do things. So we're going to go through some of them, and we're going to have a look at it. So we can change the modes, and you have the compact, or you have the slated material editor, which we don't want. We want the compact one. It's easier to work with some compact material editor. Of course, you can go to using a more expanded version of the material editor, but remember, what I'm giving you here is a series of tutorials on visualization and simulation, and 3D Studio Max is a tool that we use, but it's not an end per se. So we're not focusing on learning all the features and all the functions of 3DSMax. We're focusing on visualization and simulation of a product. Right, so we have the material editor here, and we can start doing things. Well, before we go any further, we go back here and we save our file. So carrying on with the convention that I had established before, at this time this file will be called example. So I save it, file save, and this file will be called, so I'll put it in document, okay, it's going to be called example underscore 13. So we're still in the series of tutorial, first series of tutorial, and this is the third tutorial in the series, in the first series. That's hence the name 13. Okay, so we have our material editor we call with the letter M, and what we can do is we can select a material, one of the spheres, and we can try to do things to it. So we select the sphere, and we will make sure that this material is standard, which is the case here. We will also make sure that it is diffuse, and then we will start having things coming up. Okay. Then we want to use a bitmap, so it diffuses a bitmap. So I will give you a lot of theory about light and shading and all that, but essentially what it means is that your object will diffuse. So if it's hit by the light, it will diffuse some bitmap. So it will diffuse a certain map which is bitmapped. It's a type of graphics, and basically it means it diffuses a picture, basically diffuse a pattern. So we're gonna click on diffuse, and we're gonna make sure that we select bitmap. So we're not going to select any of the others, we're only going to select bitmap. Okay, and then when we select on bitmap, it asks me to search by name to select one. So what I do is I search here, and I open the material library, and I have different pictures. Do I have any pictures at the moment? No. So what I can do is download the picture, and I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put as a picture, we're going to put, for example, bear fur, and this is a texture that we looked at. So this is live on the internet. So here's the texture. So we're gonna collect that, save image, so it's in my document downloads. So we're saving an image, and then when you go here, you can go to it, to the download. Oh, it's always complicated with Windows. Here, download, and we have, oh, sorry, it's not a material, it's a bitmap. So okay, and then it's asking for the bitmap. Sorry, yeah. So it's here. Click here, and it's in downloads, and it's this, and we open. So now we have the fur on our material, and you can see how the effect is clearly visible. We now have some fur effect on the material. It's as simple as that. So we have the image of the material, which is the fur, picked up on the sphere, and then what we can do, as simple as that, is click on the material and then drag it onto, for example, the sphere, and the sphere will have the material applied. And to check that we have this, we will show texture on bitmap, which is this little icon here. Where is it? I don't have my glasses, I can't see very well. No, I have my glasses. What did I put it in? Here, sorry. It's too small on my screen, I can't see it. So what we have now is we have shown the texture on the material, on the object, and we can look at it here, and here it is clearly there. It's not the best of texture, but it was fun to take first, I thought. Okay, so what we can do is create different textures and apply different things. But what's important is to be smart. It's not to choose materials that are silly like this. It's to choose materials that are rather realistic. So a good example, instead of choosing that, is, for example, if we're going to use steel, or if we're going to use, so we need to find some materials that are interesting. So for example is C. So we're using C, and we can see here we have interesting pictures of the sea, and we can then create material that looks like watery. We need some picture which is fully this kind of picture where the whole picture is a material and it's not like a combination of materials, and that, because that creates problems. So we look at the image. Oh, I'm sorry, it's here. So save image as, and we saw downloading the JPEG image. Okay, save. I hope this JFIF will work because I've never heard of that one. So again, we do the same here. We go here, we click on this object, on this new material, and try to apply the material. We use a diffuse, we use a bitmap, we say okay, and then we put down the you see, all format. Where did I put it? Oh, let me save it again. Open image in new how have I done? Cancel. Open image in new tab. Yeah, and then save image as, and then doesn't pick up the J. See, that's the problem. We have an image with a file that, sorry about that. So let's try another image with different file format. It's never easy. You see, there's no like simple water or image. It's always complicated artistic thing. Okay, let's take this one. Let's hope this one is a good one. So open image in new tab, and then let's save. Okay, that's a JPEG, that should work. So we save that, so we minimize that, we pick that, we open it, and that's applied here. And then if you want, we can apply this to this, and we can visualize it. And here we have our box with the water texture. Okay, so we're starting to get something that is interesting and is a bit of fun. And that's the first thing you need to do, is to add these different texture, these different materials to your object. So we're starting very slowly, and then we're going to do more and more complex operations. Another thing we can do as well is so you see the problem with this material, if you look at it here, is that we can see on the side it looks like the water, we're really looking through the water, and this is the seabed, but the top is different. So we're going to have a look at how we can apply textures in a way that makes it visually convincing. And the second thing we need also to look at is to use firm material in a way that works for the object that we're mapping the texture to, because at the moment it looks a bit bizarre. So it's an art to it, and there's a lot of tricks, and we're gonna go through some of the tricks via all the next tutorials that we're gonna do one after the other. So thanks for now, and we'll carry on next tutorial for more operations on text user material. Thank you.